always an honor and a privilege to join you all from Utah. When I asked Ramachandra what the topic would be, he suggested something that might be inspiring now that things are opening up and people are getting out again. There's more face-to-face preaching, something to inspire us to take up the preaching mission as before the lockdown. This was a talk that I gave recently called Answering the Call. We all know the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Nacha Tajma Milishishu Kastid Mebra Bhavitanya Priya Anya Prayatero Bhavi. Krishna says, there's no person more dear to me than one who shares the message, who shares the good news of the Bhagavad Gita, the eternality of the soul, the supreme soul, and our eternal relationship with him. So in the course of preaching, I want to give the example of a tradesman. You know that for every job, for every set of skills that a subcontractor has, whether it's air conditioning or plumbing or electrician, there are always the right tools in order to get the job done. The better the tools are, the more efficiently you can apply your trade, the more you can get done in the shorter period of time. And if you're the assistant for a tradesman, and that assistant calls you to come up with a double-barreled left-handed wedgeinator, as an assistant of that craftsman or tradesman, you better darn well know what it is and come up with it. I had this experience in a negative sense when I was 20 years old. I wanted to travel to Europe. So I took a leave from university, which ended up being permanent. Took a job in a fencing company in Pittsburgh. My first day on the job, I went with this older tradesman as an assistant into the jail. At that time, the jail was this gloomy, doomy, medieval structure right downtown Pittsburgh. Looked like it had been transported from Transylvania or someplace. And we had to go and repair some chain link fencing inside the jail. So the tradesman was up on a ladder, and it was a big jumble of tools down at the bottom. It was my job. He would call down the tool, and I was supposed to identify the tool and hand it up to him. And I had no idea. These tools were a big mess. They were all sizes, all shapes. I didn't, aside from the basic, pliers, screwdriver, hammer, I didn't recognize any of them. And as time went on, he got more and more steamed. You could tell he's getting more agitated, more and more frustrated. He started using swear words, using the Lord's name, vain. Oftentimes, even himself had to come down the ladder to get the tool and go back up. It was quicker and easier for him to do that than for me to try to identify what it was he wanted and pass it up to him. Needless to say, I got my walking papers the next day. It reminds me of a joke about a university student who arrives at a warehouse for his first day of work. The owner tells him to pick up a broom and start sweeping. The student says, "But sir, don't you know that I'm a university student?" The manager said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that. In that case, give me the broom and I'll show you how to do it." So tools are important. They're important for preachers as well as they are for tradesmen. Every occupation has its bag of tools. You wouldn't go to a surgeon who used a chainsaw and a pocket knife in the operating room. You wouldn't want the computer technician to work on your computer with a 12-pound sledgehammer, although you might have felt like taking a sledgehammer onto your computer before you brought it into repair. We want everyone to know and to use the proper tools for their trade. That's essential. But we're called by our Sampradaya to take Krishna consciousness to the world. Just like if you go back to the very beginning, the first living being, Lord Brahma received the same call. Tene Brahma Yada Ya Adikre Mayanti Suryo Tejo Vadimiram Chatabhinimo. He was given even multiple heads and multiple mouths to better spread the message of Sanatan Dharma. Then he in turn called and equipped Narada Muni, who in turn called and equipped Vyasadeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. Evam param param prapta imam rijay sakalena yoga nasta marantapa. Prabhupada was also called by his guru in 1926. Within the first 60 seconds of meeting his guru, he got his marching orders to preach in the West. Prabhupada had never been to the West. People in India at that time believed, not necessarily inaccurately, that the West was a horrible place, overrun by drug addicts, alcoholics, womenizers, criminals. They had all kinds of horror stories about how a holy man could never make it in the Western countries, how the people there would never, ever be interested in the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Nevertheless, Prabhupada did not falter. He did not hesitate. He knew that once the task had been divinely passed down through the chain of his succession, Krishna is going to make you and mold you for the mission. When Prabhupada finally arrived in the United States of America, he spoke with a funny accent. He was shorter in stature than the Americans, who valued the kind of bulkiness which comes from a meat-centered diet. His clothes looked funny. The books he carried with him were crudely put together. He was old, arriving in a culture that worshiped youth. He was penniless in the most affluent place on earth. And yet, you know what? His handicaps became assets. He was exactly who the disenchanted youths of the counterculture were looking for to save them. Reminded of a story about a commander of Roman soldiers who was out on the border somewhere in Northern Europe, caught up in a running battle that took him into a territory that the map makers had represented only with imaginary monsters and dragons. He didn't know whether to forge ahead into this uncharted territory or to turn back and pull up at the edge of the known, which would also, in that case, have been a retreat. So he dispatched a messenger to Rome with this urgent request: please send new orders. We have marched off of the map. Have you ever felt like that? Like Prabhupada, who marched off the map into totally unknown, uncharted lands, left everything that you've known, which is predictable, comfortable, familiar, as you pursue the preaching mission that Krishna and the gurus want you to pursue. You think, how can I possibly hope to navigate this unknown area? And the answer is with help. That's how. With the help of an old and trusted friend. Ham so aham chatam chaya sakya adbhutamatam sahasra parivartsata. Krishna tells Paranjana, you and I are both old friends. We are like two swans that have traveled from body to body to body together. The good news is that in each and every case, as God calls us, he also equips us for the task. He not only gives the orders, but he also passes on the tools that we need. Ananyas chintayantyomam yajana tesham nitya yogisema bahamiyaham. Prabhupada says in the 17th verse of the 20th chapter, 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, human being who does not utilize his human life to cross over the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. I first met devotees in Australia. I settled there for 5 years. I got used to driving on the left side of the road. I got used to the economy, the people, the language. Good eye, mate. Good eye, cobber. I developed the tools to reach out to them according to the time, place, and the audience. Then by Krishna's arrangement, after 5 years, I came back to the United States of America in 1975. I was the president in San Francisco for 5 years. We all know that the Bay Area is a unique area in all of America, presented different challenges, different circumstances, different people. I had to learn and adapt. Then Utah happened. They used to have a popular t-shirt in California in the 80s. said, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you might be in Utah. So don't misunderstand. I wasn't moving around like some devotees do, whimsically from place to place. I would have happily preached my whole life in any of those places. But Krishna had other things in mind. Life sometimes tricks you, takes away the predictable, makes your skills obsolete, forces you to get new skills, new tools, new friends, adapt to a new environment. Maybe the same kind of wine, but if you keep it in the old skins, the skins will crack and the wine will leak out. So the trick is take the old wine and put it in new skins. So what Krishna spoke to Lord Brahma millions and millions of years ago, and then what was spoken to the sun god hundreds of thousands of years ago, we're also speaking the same message, but we have to put it in new skins according to the time, to the place, and the audience. And Krishna teaches us from within how to introduce Krishna consciousness to different people, different times, different places, and different circumstances. Same knowledge, but new container. We have the Festival of Colors. And after doing the Festival of Colors for so many years, I'm trying to think of ways and means to reach a newer audience. The young people these days, you can't preach at them. They zone out. They have a very short attention span, but they're very, very sensitive. They're willing to absorb the same messages when you present them in a hip hop or rap format. You've asked me on previous occasions to give you a little sample. And so I'm going to anticipate your request and tell you one of the songs that I sing. We just had our first in-person live Festival of Colors in 2 years in Salt Lake City on June the 12th. The Salt Lake City Festival doesn't draw 25,000 people like the Spanish Fork one, but we had 2,000 people. And so one of the songs I sing to them goes in this way. Do I have your permission? Okay. So I tell all the kids out there, I say, turn to a partner, find someone, turn and face them, take off your sunglasses and look them in the eye. It doesn't matter if you blink, it doesn't matter if you look away, it's not a staring contest. I want you to look into their eye, and when you see the light in your eyes, raise your hands. When I get the majority of the audience raising their hands, and I say, repeat after me. When I look into your eyes, I see a shining soul. When I look into your eyes, I see a spirit soul. See a soul that's never born, a spark that never dies, yearns to fly back home, back to the spiritual sky. Then I say, I'll take it from here. From dust you come, to dust from dust you come, to dust you go, was not spoken of the soul. This body, like a set of clothes, wears out and gets disposed. Flame of light and love gives life to the machine. A candle never snuffs, subtle, sublime, unseen. For the soul, there's no beginning, ending, there's none. Smaller than the atom, brighter than the sun. When I look into your eyes, I see a shining soul. When I look into your eyes, I see a spirit soul. I see a soul that's never born, a spark that never dies. It yearns to fly back home, back to the spiritual skies. The inner soul continues when the outer body ends, like flame from wood, sparks ascending, transcending dark matter, blending with the sky, invisible to the naked eye. You cannot be born, you cannot die, you cannot burn, you cannot fry. The soul cannot be scorched by any blaze. No water can drown the spirit, no wind can make it fade. You cannot cut another, nor can you bleed. The soul is eternal, unborn, a seed, indivisible, indestructible, forever free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Yet howsoever turned or tossed, the soul can never itself exhaust, seated in the heart, beating its drum, powering everyone brighter than the sun. Soul's superior force lives on and runs its endless course in God's unlimited universe. As a cloud is seated on air, so spirit sports the flesh. Take away the living force, it's just chemicals lying there. A corpse naked and bare, not a twitch or wiggle, not a subtle wink or giggle. Can't tickle it or puzzle it with a riddle. Can't reward it, can't ignore it, can't restore it. Deaf, blind, mute, dumb, numb, deader than a doornail, stiffer than a board. Only thing to return it, burn it, bury it, earth to earth, ash to ashes, dust to dust. Infirm body versus immortal soul. Learn the difference, conquer ignorance, make a spiritual choice, sing out, rejoice, make some noise for the spiritual force. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So my point is that when you desire to step out of the comfort zone and put it all on the line to share Krishna consciousness with people, Krishna promises that he's always with you. He'll preserve what you have. He'll carry what you lack. The classic example is Narada Muni. How could anyone be more disadvantaged? You know, we like to talk about disadvantaged people nowadays. How about Narada Muni? He didn't know who his father was. His mother got bitten by a snake and passed away when he was only 5 years old. What greater trauma, what greater reversal or catastrophe could one be called upon to face? Orphan at 5 years old. And yet, some or other, Narada Muni chanted Hare Krishna, Namami Anantasya Hatat Torpavara Goyani Bridani Kitan Gam Padyatam Stichamano Kalim Predikshan Vimara Vimatsaraha. He traveled all over the world, apparently orphaned, apparently helpless, apparently without resources, and yet never alone, never orphaned. Why? Because Krishna had adopted him as his own. And Krishna eventually made him and molded him so that Narada Muni now preaches all over the three worlds. Bahirantas cha lokam stream paryamyaskan anugrahe mayanam pradishtam dishamutaram. Narada Muni says that in my next life, I was so endowed that I can travel entirely wherever I want throughout the three worlds by the mercy, anugrahe mayanam, Krishna. Coming on his own Vina, there's no restriction to wherever he wants to go and spread Krishna consciousness. And here's an effect that Krishna often picks the least likely, just like the orphan 5-year-old boy, the elderly Swami Prabhupada, the least well-connected, the least obvious, and raises them from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, from the back to the front. Although Naraji was born the son of a single parent, that sole parent died when he was an infant. Krishna nevertheless stepped in and equipped him up to the point where there isn't a single person of all the 1 billion people living in India and elsewhere in the world who doesn't know and get chills when they hear the name of Narada Muni. Narada Muni Bajai Vina Radhika Ramana Name. So as in any other trade, like for instance, building a house, you need two important things. You need a straight edge and you need a level. You need something to be able to draw straight lines, and you need something to know if what you're doing is plumb. It's actually vertical to the horizon. The strongest angle is a 90-degree angle, and the strongest foundation on which to build is one which is perfectly horizontal. So our tools as preachers, just like the tool of the builder is the straight edge and the level, our tools are the 4 regulative principles to keep us strong, to keep us going higher and higher without getting weaker. And it is the chanting of the 16 rounds. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These are the 2 tools that we need to become the best preachers that we can be. Krishna says, he is Tesham Evanu Kampardam Aham Agyanam Nisyami Jnana Deepane Bashpatam. Krishna is seated within the heart, and he will destroy with the shining torchlight of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. In the book Topmost Yoga, Prabhupada says we are searching for a friend to give us light, to give us guidance, to give us knowledge, wisdom, peace, and tranquility. That friend is Krishna. That friend is God. I heard about a college student. He lived with the Navajos for a year as part of his PhD thesis. He slept in their home. He ate their food. He worked side by side with them. And he developed a special attachment to the old grandfather. Now, the grandfather didn't speak any English, and he didn't speak any Navajo. And yet, a close relationship evolved between the student and the elderly chief. They spent a lot of time together. And despite the language barrier, the young man picked up a heightened understanding of love and friendship. Eventually, the student picked up enough basic Navajo, and when it came time for the young man to leave the family after 1 year and return to college, with tears in his eyes, he said to the grandfather this simple sentence: I like me best when I am with you. I like me best when I am with you. It's the same thing with us and Krishna. We like ourselves best when we are with him, when his name is tripping off the end of our tongue, when we are following his instructions and exerting ourselves to spread Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we are tied up with him through sound vibration, we are the best versions of ourselves. He is our center. The regular principles are the level, and the chanting is the straight edge to know that we belong to him and that he belongs to us. I don't know if you know this, but 50 years ago, carpenters used very basic tools. They had a hand drill. They had saws that you had to go back and forth manually. Nowadays, the whole business of building has been revolutionized by a category of tools called pneumatic tools. Pneumatic tools like the nail gun and the electric drill make the average carpenter 10 times more powerful than they were 50 years ago. Now, here's a fact for you. Did you know that the word pneuma is a Greek word which means the Spirit of God within you? Yes, when we want to preach the glories of the Lord, the Spirit of Krishna within us supplies tools to help us in the ministry to which he calls us. Someone said, God doesn't always call the equipped, but he always equips the called. He makes you 10 times more powerful than you could be on your own. Through the power of the Spirit, we're never alone. And knowing that we're never alone fills us with a boldness that we may not have had before. The boldness reminds us that there is no place we can go where Krishna isn't already there. There's no place we've been where Krishna wasn't there. There's no place we are where Krishna isn't here. Sarvata paniparam tat, sarvata tsiram, sarvato shrutyamo loke, sarvano brita tishtati, sarvendriya gunabhasam, sarvendriya viravisham. Krishna goes ahead of us and prepares the way. When Krishna created us, manifested ourselves, he'd already established our eternal relationship with him in one of the 5 rasas. And since then, he has unfailingly accompanied us, birth after birth after birth after birth, whispering an invitation to recall and recover that primeval original relationship. He's already paved the way to where he wants us to go, and he has already equipped us with the tools that we need to get there. All we have to do is our part and respond. All we have to do is accept that relationship which we've already had with Krishna since the beginning of time. Krishna Baliya Se Jiva, we just forgotten. Once we revive our God consciousness, there's going to come a boldness from knowing that we've never been alone, nor will we ever be alone. He always accompanies us as our well-wishing friend. And what Krishna has done for us, he's done for others. What emboldened Lord Nityananda to approach Jagai and Madai? They were the worst criminals. It is said in the abode of Yamaraj that the bookkeeper, the accountant, has files and files and files and files and files, all filled with the crimes of Jagai and Madai. He went to Yamaraj one day and he said, all of our warehouses are filled with a chronicle of the crimes of these 2 brothers. We don't have any more room left. What is it that emboldened Nityananda to approach Jagai and Madai and ask them to chant Hare Krishna? Nityananda knew that the central fact of each and every living entity is that the Lord is the source of our creations. He's the center of our existence. Nityananda knew that what he had to do was remind Jagai and Madai about their original relationship with the Lord. And the glimmer, like the rising pre-dawn sun, the glimmer of that recollection would drive away all of their impurities. Kechit kevala bhaktya niharamiva bhaskara, just like the rising sun dissipates the fog. All Nityananda had to do was revive a tinge of that love of Godhead in Jagai and Madai, which is already at the core of every living being. And Lord Nityananda knew that as soon as the sun of Krishna consciousness even began to show it as a pre-dawn glimmer, Jagai and Madai would no longer be able to accommodate, on the one hand, birthing Krishna consciousness and sinful activities. The sinful activities would have to go just like the darkness before the dawn. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You may be scared. You may be nervous about approaching a total stranger in an airport or a parking lot, or approaching a coworker, someone at the gym, with a book or with a thought or a philosophy. But know this, that Krishna has already prepared the hearts and minds of those to whom we are sent. Thus we can go with a boldness because we do not go alone. As I said, my first 5 years in Krishna consciousness was in Australia. I was a president of Melbourne Temple for a while. There was a 4-block area in downtown Melbourne. The chanting party would circumambulate these 4 blocks every day. There was a flower seller. We'd pass him about 4 times a day, once an hour. And initially, back in 1970, 71, he would scream and yell at us. Couldn't exactly hear what he was saying, but it couldn't have been pleasant because of the noise of the Sankirtan. His epithets were drowned out. He would throw flowers so hard that if it hit you, it would sting. It would actually produce a welt. He would scream and yell and try and get us to move on because he couldn't hear himself talk to his customers. But year after year, this went on. And eventually, he became more calm. He chilled out. From frowning and yelling at the devotees, he came to the point of being neutral. From being neutral, he came to the point of grudgingly accepting the devotees. From the point of grudgingly accepting the devotees, he began to slightly smile when the devotees came. And by the time I left Australia in 1975 to return to America, once a day he would present a beautiful bouquet of flowers to the Sankirtan devotees and say, would you please take these back and offer them on my behalf to Radha Govinda. That means the Lord is not only in our hearts, but he is in the hearts of our so-called enemies as well. And when he wills it, people that wished you ill will turn around and want to do good to you. There's also the story of Haridas Thakur, the great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. He was the partner of Nityananda in their preaching endeavors. He used to live in a cave in order to chant his 300,000 names of Krishna a day. And at one point, a venomous serpent was cohabiting the cave along with him. Some admirers of Haridas Thakur, they would visit him periodically, but not go particularly close because they were afraid of the snake. And one day they sent a representative and asked Haridas Thakur if he wouldn't leave that place because his devotees were afraid of the snake and they were regularly visiting the cave, so they didn't want an accident or a confrontation to happen. As soon as Haridas Thakur told them, I will leave the cave, at that very moment, as if something extraordinary was being communicated from the heart of Haridas into the heart of the snake gave preference to Haridas, and he decided to leave the cave at that very moment in order not to disturb him. And this is one of many tangible examples of how the Lord gives protection to a bona fide devotee engaged in spreading the glories of the Lord. So we should think that wherever we go, if we keep Krishna first place, we keep his order to share Krishna consciousness on our heads, We'll always have our footsteps guided. We'll always, some or other, know how to say the right words. Wherever we go, Krishna is our stowaway. Doesn't make any difference. Here or there, Australia, the Bay Area, Spanish Fork, Salt Lake City, India, or anywhere else, in my comfortable office or on the street, at home or in a distant city, or whether I'm so-called alone with others, as long as we trust that the spirit of Krishna is both within and without, bahirantas chabutaram acharam charam, coming and going in front and behind, in the past and the present, as well as in the future, we'll always have the right tools at the right times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You've all seen those cop movies where the undercover cop goes into a room. He's wearing a little wire that's invisible and an earpiece, so the handler can tell him the right thing to say in the association of all the wrongdoers, the culprits, and the criminals. That's kind of what the Lord within the heart does for his creatures. When we're called to minister, we're not alone. We don't have to rely solely on our intellect, on our nimbleness of mind, on ourselves, on our power. We have the power of the Almighty both within our hearts and within the hearts of those we are approaching. He's fully present within each and every act. All we have to do is keep him first place, and he'll equip us for what we need. When I was in the Los Angeles temple as a life membership director, I used to go out on Saturday nights to Westwood Village with the chanting party. There was a corner street there where a bank sat. Of course, the bank would be closed on the weekends. So the devotees would go into this plaza and chant. And whenever a set of chanting terminated, before the next chanter would start another set, I would walk forward 15 or 20 paces and address the large crowds that had assembled. Tell them something about Krishna consciousness, something about the chanting. One Saturday night, a young boy, very tough looking, red faced with anger, with his fists clenched, walked right up to within an inch of my face. I could feel and smell his hot breath on my face. I could see the redness in his eyes, the tension in his body. And he said very menacingly, as if he was about to punch me in the face, he said, "Krishna is not God." He whispered it. So the Sankirtan party was not aware of the fact that I was in a perhaps dangerous situation, and I'm running the calculations through my mind. Okay, he's speaking very low. Nobody can hear him but me. They think we're having a friendly conversation. Nothing could be further from the truth. What do I have to do to avoid getting pounded to a pulp? I'm 15 steps away from the chanting party. None of them are aware of this predicament. So I reached into my heart. I said a prayer, Krishna, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? So I said, I'm fine with your disbelieving that Krishna is God. That's fine. Don't have a problem with that at all. But tell me this, Krishna is a name for God. It has several meanings. One of the meanings is all powerful. Would you agree that God is all powerful? He was a Christian boy. He said, yes, I would agree that God is all powerful. Another meaning of Krishna is that God is all knowing. Would you agree that God is all knowing? He says, yes, I would agree that God is all knowing. Another name for Krishna is that he owns everything. He creates everything. He has all wealth. So he's the wealthiest. So Krishna means all knowing, all powerful, all wealthy. Would you agree that God is all wealthy, that he owns everything? Yes, he said, I would have to agree with that. And then when you think about it, Krishna's other meaning is that God is supreme. And as a supreme being, there can be no one more attractive than Krishna. So would you agree then that God is the most beautiful? He said, yes, I would agree. So then, although we've previously agreed that Krishna is not God, would you now agree with me that God is Krishna? He thought about that for a minute. A smile came over his face. The tension lifted. He said, yeah, I think I can live with that. And he gave me a high five and walked away. I said, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Krishna. Starting with the Lord himself, through Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Chaitanya, the six Goswamis, Bhaktisiddhanta, and Prabhupada, we followers have been called and appointed to go into the world to preach. When that happens, it's kind of like having been struck by lightning. Your life is never the same again. It's scary in some sense. And add to all of that, this is Kali Yuga. It's the winter season of the cosmos. People are full of quarrel and hypocrisy, but the good news is you have the right tools for the right job. The chanting of Hare Krishna, or japa, the four regulative principles. You have the right words, the right connections, the right times. Now keep yourselves fit, moving forward. There's nothing to worry about. The Lord's got you in the palm of his hand. You have your earpiece in. You have a direct line of communication with the Lord of millions of universes. Krishna doesn't necessarily lay everything on us at one time. He doesn't give us more than we need at that moment because we couldn't handle it. We couldn't process it. He gives us what we need or what we have to do now, in this day, in this season, in this place, in these circumstances, with these people. He has solutions to challenges which have not yet arrived. He has already arranged for future enemies to become your well-wishers. He originally created every living being to love him intimately, sweetly, eternally. He's entered into everyone's heart in order to guide them in the right direction. If we can minister with the boldness of knowing that we are never alone, the boldness of knowing that Krishna is always on the throne, the boldness of knowing that he has all of us in the palm of his hand, we will make our life successful. At the end of the life, we'll go back to home, back to Godhead, and take other conditioned souls back with us. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Are you done, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Thank you. That was a very, very powerful class. Thank you so much. Before we go into questions, devotees, please be ready if you have any questions. I'll just quickly make a couple of announcements. All right, let me bring up my screen. So if you all can see my screen, we have had this ongoing Lord Jagannath Shravan festival organized by CNJ. So this coming Sunday morning, 9 to 10, His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami will be speaking on Lord Jagannath's, glories of Lord Jagannath's Prashadam. This coming Sunday, actually this coming Saturday also, we're going to go for Harinam at the park as usual in the evening. We'll be distributing some cards also this weekend for our opening, which is happening on July 18th, Sunday. If you can see that also on my screen. Grand reopening, same time, 5 p.m. onwards. So this Saturday we'll be doing Harinam distribution. So Sunday we will not have a class. And this Sunday there won't be any program. But we'll continue with our Wednesday Sangha program every week. And then, so our next Sunday program will be in person on July 18th. So thank you very much. And now we'll go to questions. I hope I'm not forgetting any other announcements. If I am, please remind me, Ram Tulsi Prabhu or Gopal Govind Prabhu. But these are the two main, which is, oh, there's one more. On July 11th, this Sunday, there's also Rath Yatra happening in Parsippany. All of you may new temple property. Sorry?
We lost you for just 30 seconds.
Okay. Where did you lose me?
July 11.
Yeah, so July 11th, we also have Rath Yatra, first time in Parsippany, organized by ISKCON Tuaco. It's starting from Braj Temple in Parsippany and goes all the way to Pal, which is right across from our new temple property. This is at 4 p.m. Those who are interested probably can visit the iskonofnewjersey.org website and get more information. And in coming weeks, we will also announce the July 17th Rath Yatra, which is organized by ISKCON CNJ in Atlantic City. So a lot of festivals. The summer is full of festivals and programs. Take advantage of it. And now we'll go back to come to the class here. Any questions, anybody? While you're thinking, I have a question, Prabhuji. Oh, go ahead, Gopal Govind Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Very lightning class and powerful. At one point you mentioned Krishna is ready to help the pure devotees. So I was just thinking, or you said, what was the word you used? You used the word like something like that, pure devotees or the deserved devotees, bona fide devotees. So I was just thinking that in my experience, Krishna is actually helping us regardless of whether we are bona fide or not. If we are seeking for his help, he is helping us. Sometimes our plans are not matching with his plans, or rather he has a different and unique plan for us. We don't understand that. So but he is helping us in every way. So that is something I just noticed and I'm like, sorry.
Well, I didn't say anything about bona fide devotees or pure devotees. Of course, the examples are pure devotees: Brahma, Vyasadeva, and Narada Muni, Prabhupada. But my theme was not that you have to be a pure devotee before Krishna helps you. I think that was not the theme at all. In fact, that would be missing the point. Krishna helps anybody who sincerely tries to preach. It doesn't matter what your level of advancement is. If you know that those who are dearest to the Lord are those who preach, and the Lord is most intimately connected with those who preach, then he's there. He's there for you. You don't have to be bona fide. You don't have to be a pure devotee. I mean, you are bona fide and you're acting purely, but you may not be bona fide in all of your activities. You may not be up to the standard of Narada Muni or Brahma, but it doesn't matter. This is the way. In fact, I think I would actually say the theme of the text is the opposite of what you just stated, is that if you want to get the mercy of the Lord and you're not particularly advanced, just cultivate the desire to preach. That's the way to connect to the Lord directly without qualifications, and that's the way to become a pure devotee as quickly as possible.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very well.
Krishna.
Any other question? Maybe I'll ask one. Prabhuji, why did you take these risks? Did you not care for your family, your wife? you were facing dangers at every step. Why weren't you very practical about?
You want Krishna to be in your life. That's the ultimate thrill. That's the ultimate adventure. And Krishna is just not going to come to you in the comfort zone. So this is a question that each and every one of us has to ask. How much do I want Krishna in my life? And then what am I prepared to risk in order to make that happen? That risk can take many forms. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic move like, opening a temple or going from Los Angeles to Utah. But there are every day in 100 little ways, there are ways to get out of your comfort zone. Just make that water a little colder in the morning shower, or make it cold. And it's not necessarily the same thing for everyone necessarily. Chant your rounds more attentively. Take your chanting to the next level. Manage your anger. Have more patience with your kids, and tell your wife how much you appreciate her more often, so that there's no doubt about that. These are all different ways of being an example of Krishna consciousness and sharing the light of Krishna consciousness. Every day there should be progress. There should be attachments, comforts that we're able to leave behind and move forward. Like you, Ramachandran, you have so much care and concern for all the devotees here in Bergen County. You devote so much of your time and your energy and your thought processes to try to make a easy transition to higher and higher levels of Krishna consciousness for all the members of your congregation. So your kindness and your extending of yourself to others when you could have private time, you could do things that you would like to do for fun, and yet so much of your time you dedicate to the congregation, to open another center of Krishna. We already have 2 or 3 centers in New Jersey. Would it be easy to say, hey, there's plenty of centers. If someone's interested, they could join Bridgewater, they could join Parsippany. But right there where there's already several temples and where there's already a big congregation, you didn't leave it there. You struck out. You did something new. I admire you for that, and I'm sure Krishna does too.
It's only with the blessings of Vaishnavas and many support from many devotees. Intellectually,
You answered the call.
Intellectually, I'm not so intelligent, but academically. But I remember coming to class in the early days and hearing every class that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants us to preach and Prabhupada wants. So that stuck in my heart. And just on that, we're just carrying on. That's all.
Yade deke tari ho ho, Krishna upadesh, amaragnahaya tari desh. Wherever you go, wherever you meet, without any consideration of who is proper and who is improper, or proper time or place, just share the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Make your life successful, make their life successful, so you can taste the fruits of love of Godhead. The reason we don't have to worry about who's qualified, even though it says one should not preach to the faithless, we don't emphasize that too much. Prabhupada didn't emphasize that too much. Certainly when you go out and meet random people with books and chant, you're intersecting with a lot of faithless people. But the reason we do that, we kind of override that offense against the holy name, is that we know that wherever we go, whoever we meet, Krishna is in their hearts. They have a loving relationship with Krishna that they've just forgotten. And like I said, that gives us the boldness to not worry so much about whether we're, if you didn't have that boldness, you'd stay at home. I can't go out. I might meet a faithless person today. You wouldn't be able to do anything. So you need that faith. You know, when you meet someone, when you may think it's random, you may just think it's a total random meeting, but Krishna sent that person to you, and he sent you to that person, and he'll give you the right words to say. Just be sincere in your heart. You know?
I have full faith 100% faith in our books, in Srila Prabhupada and Lord Nityananda, that he will help us please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's the only foundation for at least myself, I would say. That's all. Vijay Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, how are you doing?
Go, Vijay. Good.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. You know, I was missing your class, and then I think there was a lull in your episodes, and then I came across 4 or 5 of them, doom, 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 and then, you know, I caught up in answering the call last night.
Okay.
When I walked in today, typically every Wednesday, you know, they send in our WhatsApp group who's a speaker, but I didn't see it or I didn't get in. But when I heard your voice, I said, boom, you know, I'm here. I'm getting a chance to see you. Thank you again. A wonderful lecture.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So, you know, this is a very personal feeling of mine, which I'm sharing with everybody here, but I needed your quick advice. With more and more time, my faith in Krishna is so much bigger and better. And I've started becoming very loud. I am a business owner in New York City. I meet 30, 40 people a day, from vendors to suppliers to telephone calls from customers. And every time I talk about Krishna in some way, I sell jewelry. I think is one of the hardest, most useless product in the world. And we're doing very good, you know. And and funnily, you know, every time people call me, many times they're buying because they lost someone or they're distressed or this and that. And I keep sharing your episodes. But at the same time, tell me, is being this cocky or being that confident with people who are maybe from a different faith or different you know, ways of life, is that something which I'm overdoing it, or is that my style which I should continue? So that was more on a, you know.
Well, you know, we're in the area that's 90% Mormon. And when I first, when I was younger, as Ramachandra mentioned, this is past history. I don't run marathons anymore. I don't even run anymore. I walk because I'm 74. But when we moved from LA, I was very much a marathoner. You know, I ran the LA Marathon 4 times, ran the Las Vegas Marathon. So I was and on Saturday mornings, Spanish Fork is a running town. And you do 20 miles with a big group of 30 or 40 people. You do 20 miles. And the owner of the local sports store, he goes ahead and he stashes the Gatorade behind trees and culverts. So you stop every once in a while and everyone rehydrates and all. And they're all talking about the Mormon church. They're talking about the Jazz basketball games. They're talking about BYU football games and all. And I'm just with them. That's all. Inevitably, after they finish with all of their toppings, they all say, "True, tell us something about Krishna." Every Saturday for years, as long as I was able to run along with them, tell us about something about Krishna. You know, it was just, I would just wait. You know, I knew it would come. So I just bide my time. I didn't have to, and they say, tell us something. They really look forward to that, whatever I could tell them about Krishna. And I remember another incident when, you know, this was 1996. We'd done the groundbreaking for the Spanish Fork temples on Diwali in 1996. So we're all running, you know, we were all running together. We just started out. We'd only done a couple of miles. And someone said, "True, I read that your guys are building a temple." I said, "Yeah." "How much is it going to cost?" I said, $1.2 million. They said, how much you have in the bank?" I said, $12,000. And the whole group it was like they were gut punched. It was like they didn't have any more air to pump into their lungs. They all just stopped. And they said, "You said $120,000, didn't you?" I said, "No, $12,000. So you're going to build a 1.2 million temple and you have $12,000 in the bank, right?" So, I mean, I don't know what each individual thought, but one thing that they all concluded was this guy has a lot of faith. He may, he may be stupid, but he has a lot of faith. So that was an example for them. I think in some way or shape or form, it made them stronger in their own faith. It was kind of setting the bar a little bit higher. And so the last thing they wanted to hear from me was, "Aw, shucks," sort of a mentality, or "you don't want to hear this." I know they want to hear it. My life is exciting, and they know my life is exciting. That Krishna comes to Utah, where 90% of the people in Mormon has no money, and he has this crazy idea to build a temple, and they watch it happen against all odds, improbably, impossibly, miraculous. They watch that happen. Well, I don't have to be shy about that. That is the goodness of God, and every chance I get, I'm going to brag about that. And that's what people want. They want to hear tales of victory, tales of triumph. That's what's going to cause their own faith to take birth from within inside them. When you tell them about how you laid it all in the line and God did not disappoint you, there's a baby, there's a promise in them that hearing that, it comes to life. It bursts from within them, and then they become empowered to do great things at all. So I would say, not in the least, don't be shy. Brag, but don't brag about yourself. Brag on the greatness of Krishna.
Correct. Yeah. Fantastic, Prabhu. Thank you again. Great encouragement. On a side note, I heard the vaccination in Utah is pretty less. Did you get vaccinated? Everything all right?
My wife and I are vaccinated, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other full-time devotees in the temple, and they're all anti-vaxxers.
Really? Wow.
It's like, I mean, and we had the Festival of Colors. We had the Festival of Colors in Salt Lake City with 2,000 people, and it was great. And we've got the Festival of Colors, 25,000 people scheduled for September 25th and 26th, the first Spanish Fork Festival of Colors. And if there's a resurgence because of these deadbeat anti-vaxxers, we may get our festival canceled for the 3rd year in a row.
Sorry. All right.
I'm really kind, and I mean, of course, it's not these devotees' specific fault, but I can't help but focus on them because they're right here, So,
I feel you, yeah. I feel you.
I sent them articles. I sent them an article from the New York Times this morning that talked about the rural areas where there's a surge, and it mentioned Utah. There's a surge in Utah.
Correct. I read that too.
People who are anti-vaxxers are getting sick and dying. So I send them this from the New York Times. Prabhupada said this is the #1 newspaper in the world, and they think it's an invitation to then debate with me and send me back some wacko article from the lunatic fringe. I say, I'm not sending this to a debate with you. I'm sending it to you to save your life.
I'm sorry. What a struggle. Yeah. All right. Hare Krishna. I guess they're depending a lot on Krishna.
Exactly. It's all in Krishna's hands,
Dandavat, Prabhuji. And please, Dandavat to Mataji and to your deities also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Any other question, anyone? Realization, comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandava Pranam. It was really, really, really wonderful talk. And it really touched me, the point you were mentioning when you said, when you really connect to Krishna through chanting of holy name or some way, like, you become the best of what you are. But sometimes, like, during this, the whole topic, the subject, answering the call, right? So, sometimes, like, how can we develop that confidence, right? We might say, like, you build an association, you build a hearing, but, sometimes it doesn't happen. Like, maybe something is lacking during those process, right? This is my real calling, and, like, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I am going in the right direction. and track, right? So how
So
can one understand that? Yeah.
When we first joined in Australia, the devotee who was there originally, Upendra, he was a good public speaker, and they had something like Hyde Park's Speaker's Corner, you know, where people get up on ladders and they speak and crowds gather. This is a famous area in London's Hyde Park called Speaker's Corner. So they had the same thing in Sydney in a park called the Domain. They had a Speaker's Corner. So Upendra would go up and he would go on the ladder, and a lot of people come just to heckle, just to stir up, you know, just to stir up trouble, you know. And so there are all kinds of speakers, and they're outrageous because it's kind of a show. It's kind of like a circus. But Upendra would go there every week and he would speak. And then Upendra left to start a temple in Fiji. And so then he asked me, he said, can you take over the, you know, can you represent the Hare Krishna movement at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park? And I was like aghast. Not only was I not an experienced speaker, but these people in the crowd, these hecklers, they were vicious. I mean, they could send you away in tears, you know. So here's a good example. You know, it's like I'm going into the fire, you know. I'm literally going into the fire, and I'm totally unprepared and totally unequipped. You know, these guys are capable of eating someone like me alive, okay? So then true, how does your, you know, topic and your theme, how can you say it's true? And you know, I just, you know, and I'm there the first week, and I got the ladder set up, and there's already a crowd, you know, they say fresh meat, you know, there's already a crowd gathering. And I said, can I do this? And I said, no, I can't do it. But with Krishna's help, I can do anything. Put your foot on the first step of the ladder. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to know in advance everything you're going to say, what they're going to say, you don't know any of that. And there are no guarantees that you're going to nail it the first time, because after all, you have to learn also. Maybe part of this is you becoming a little humbler, you know, you getting some you know, defeats under your belt to make you better. But so I just told myself, you know, Krishna's not going to give it to all of you in one bolt of lightning, one shot. But what Krishna's telling me to do right now is put my foot on the first step of the ladder. So I did. I put my foot on the first step. Now put your second foot. So then I was up there on the ladder and I started to speak. And I'll be honest with you, I got one-upped. I got slammed. I got beat up, you know, tossed upside down, turned over, insulted. You know, what's that pigeon poop on your forehead? You know, I mean, but I'll tell you what, the answers that I was stumped on, the answers that I didn't have a response to, that I looked foolish, I would think about those during eating, during sleeping, I would think about those. I would research scripture. I would think, what would Prabhupada say? What would Prabhupada? And honestly, the next time someone asked that question, bam, I was right there. Even before they got the sentence out of their mouth, they just say two words from the look on their face. And from the first two syllables, I got so good that I just rammed the answer right down their throat before the question was even out. So it didn't happen like all of a sudden. And I had to take some knocks of my ego on the way. But I look back on that now and I say, man, that was worth it. That was the best boot camp that anybody could ever gone through. So anyway, that's just my own example as far as communication, preaching. You'll have to, you know, find out how it works in your own life too. But you know, you don't necessarily need the confidence that I can do it all, that I have all the right answers, but you need the confidence to put your first, for Krishna and for Prabhupada, put your foot on the first step of the ladder.